somehow, 2021 is already coming to a close, and like many other anime enjoyers, I'm sure, I found myself looking back on the highs and lows of these past seasons. There were plenty of surprises, hidden gems, and long-anticipated sequels. Specific moments while watching a particular anime where I went, wow, I'm so glad to be experiencing this, or I can't wait to talk about this later. A season of shows ends with some you dropped and some you stuck with. It's okay if not everything turned out as good as you thought it would, because those ups and downs are just part of the cycle. Very rarely have I experienced a disturbance in that sacred cycle. In this case, my lowest point of the year was not simply a letdown. It's not even on the same level as your everyday standard 20 minutes a week, 12 episode, quick and snappy, 6 out of 10 watch that you expect nothing out of and get nothing out of. No, instead, it was the Promised Neverland Season 2, an emotionally scarring dumpster fire destruction of an adaptation. One that maintained credibility and sparked hope at its start, since the first season delivered on what both manga fans and anime onlys were looking for. But it wasn't long before that hope, that trust, was thoroughly destroyed. Today, I'm going to finally give the bitterness in my heart an outlet. During the time that followed the Promised Neverland anime's conclusion, I chose to pretend none of it had ever happened, instead of facing my pain head on. I hope that for me and for anyone who shares my pain, this video will serve as closure so we can all move on to the new year. Season 1 of The Promised Neverland was popular in 2019, and for good reason. The story has a fantastic hook. An orphanage of children who think they're being raised by a loving mother figure who have no reason not to believe they'll eventually be adopted by permanent families, when really the entire system and world is against them, seeing them only as food. Even as someone who knew the twists, it was so much fun to re-experience them in a different medium, as well as to watch everyone else react. On top of that, this was a well-timed adaptation since, although the manga had not yet ended at that point, its worldwide readership had been steadily dropping for a while, due to, in my opinion, a decline in quality. Season 1 going as great as it did meant a new wave of fans and potential redemption for The Promised Neverland if more of it was adapted well. So with all that explained, you can imagine the hype for Season 2. Knowing that the chapters and arcs immediately following the Gracefield House arc would be even better, I told anyone who would listen, if you like that, wait till you see what's coming! Trust me, bro. Until before I knew it, Season 2 had arrived. Everyone kept pointing out the various ways its first couple episodes differed from the manga, and I was perfectly fine with that. Even if the anime and manga were different, it's fine as long as those changes were justified. I had faith, because of my experience with Season 1, that none of it would be an issue. But then, we all realized whoever was behind this adaptation wouldn't stop at skipping chapters. Yugo, the man Emma and Rei were supposed to meet in the bunker of episode 3, isn't just a random side character you can erase. As the first non-mother adult they have ever met, and someone who is raised as livestock just like them, he serves as a character foil. Just like with Isabella, seeing how Yugo adapted to the same system the protagonists are trying to escape adds very important depth, in my opinion. A central theme of The Promised Neverland, evident in Emma's repeatedly stated ideals, is hope in hopeless situations. Emma is someone who refuses to give up even when constantly at a disadvantage, while Yugo has become a cynical and tormented person after losing everyone he cared about. I think that's a big reason why the Goldie Pond arc, an arc which can only exist with him included, is considered the manga's best. I want you to read it for yourself, so I'll keep things vague, but rather than having to outsmart a deceptively caring antagonist who has known them their entire lives, like in the Gracefield House arc, they are actively hunted for sport with little to no consideration. Although mind games are still a major factor, violence is unavoidable. Emma and Rei have no choice but to fight the demons we knew so little about before, when demons were distant threats, not characters of their own, and the children's pacifist ideals are challenged every second as they suffer loss after loss. It all has a thrill that later arcs, the ones Season 2 also skips, couldn't quite match. The Goldie Pond arc didn't just have to do with Yugo or the rest of the side characters introduced, it also had a huge impact world building and character growth wise. To me, it represents the series' appeal. Remove that, among other fan favorite story elements, and you're left with nothing but problems. You see, Season 2 wasn't just a dumpster fire because because of what it removed, but also because of what it decided was worthy of being shown instead. Every week, I put my clown makeup on and I press play, telling myself, no, they didn't seriously actually remove that entire arc or those entire cast of characters. No, they must be rearranging events in an attempt to fix the problems from the manga, right? Because the manga obviously wasn't perfect. As I mentioned, it was at a decline in readership and quality. The manga suffered problems like too large a cast of characters that weren't all given enough attention or their own motivations, convoluted twists, and a decline in the tension mystery element, less and less conflict towards Emma, the protagonist, as everyone just starts agreeing with everything she decides. These are all problems that season 2 of the adaptation decides to keep and add on to, actually. In order to have tension in a story, you need to have a threat. Any kind of inner conflict even, for example, doubt within yourself that what you're doing is right, for all your main characters to have plot armor is the last thing you want. For all of your antagonists to eventually side with your main character in a very predictable way is not what you want. And without tension, I'm bored. The final bow on this flaming turd were the last few minutes of the final episode of season 2, where the arcs that they cut out and wrote around are now seen in a slideshow presentation. You get a glimpse of what you expected to get. You get a glimpse of what you wanted out of this adaptation in a slideshow. I guess you're just supposed to point at the images and go, oh, I know that from the manga, and you're supposed to be happy that you got a little taste of what you actually wanted, when in fact the finale was worse than the manga's finale, which a lot of people consider to be a bad one. So I came into the anime adaptation wanting a better resolution, a better conclusion, a better outcome than I got from the manga, and instead you gave me something worse. You basically accomplished nothing with season 2. You got no new fans, you disrespected the ones you already had, you didn't present any new or cool ideas, you just rehashed and microwaved the problems that were already in the manga and removed the good stuff that was in the manga, so all you have is this empty nothing. It's not even a story arc or a character arc. Nobody does anything, really. It's not an adaptation. It doesn't exist. It never happened. And now that I've talked about all I can really sensibly talk about, my thoughts may not be organized, but I think I've gotten it all out there. I feel that I am at peace. Maybe you can read the manga, the Promised Neverland manga, and enjoy its highs, cry at its lows, but at least you won't be left numb, emotionally destroyed, confused, as I was. I've just been a little too positive this year, so I wanted to get out some negativity in the world, you know, out of my system. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you actually next year with more video essays, book reviews, etc.